Do you believe, and this is I'm quite curious about this one, do you believe that somewhere out there is life other than on this earth?
Yeah, well, is there life on other planets? Is there some other creation apart from ours on this little tiny planet on Earth? Well, I will talk to that, but I want to make one point to start with, and that is that we as human beings are very prone to distraction. We find focus very difficult.
Yeah.
And we are asked as Christians to be focused upon the Lord Jesus Christ, to recognize our own sinfulness and to marvel and believe in his total forgiveness of me,
Yeah.
and to wait for his son, God's son, to return from heaven to establish God's kingdom upon the earth. That is to be our focus. And that is what I most respect about the Lord Jesus, particularly in his time of dying, that he was totally focused. He didn't let his mind wander off. If you were to do a transcript of your own self-talk, I mean, we are wandering around all over the place in our self-talk,
Yeah.
thinking about all sorts of quite bizarre nonsense things and having nonsense dialogues in our own heads about totally unspiritual things. It may not be sinful, but they're not focused on Jesus. That's why Peter says, gather together the loins of your mind, gather together everything like under one belt. And be focused. So these issues about, well, is there life on other planets, and are those people saved, and all this sort of thing, I'm afraid this is an example of our tendency towards wandering away from what we are asked to be focused upon.
Yeah.
But having said that, well, is there life out there? Well, of course, we don't know. What we do know is that the Bible presents God as focused upon this earth, so far as we are concerned. And of course, you wonder where the angels came from. That there obviously was some kind of previous creation, probably previous creations. On this earth. Genesis 1 begins with the earth, this planet covered in water and empty and void, as if it's been judged. But the planet was there before Genesis 1, and something happened that judged it or brought judgment upon it. And of course, we're desperate to know, what was it? What happened? I want to know. Well, yes, these are typical of our distractions. But what we do know is that God gave his only begotten Son, that the Lord Jesus was the only begotten Son of God. He has never had a begotten Son. And that Son, the Son of his love, was of our nature and was exactly like us. And yet Jesus was the image of his Father. And I understand that both physically, morally, etc. So I think that we have to accept that God never had any other son, certainly not a begotten son, and that his son was specifically if you like, a two-legged human being, a Homo sapien.
Yeah.
And as it reasons in Hebrews, that the Lord Jesus did not come to save angels. He came to save the seed of Abraham because he had our nature. So his specific mission was to save humans, and that is why he was human. So in terms of, well, are there other people living up on some other planet waiting to get saved by Jesus? Well, I would assume the answer to that is no, not at this stage and not in this form. You also have the situation at the end of the book of Revelation where it appears the difference between heaven and earth shall be collapsed, and that God himself shall dwell upon earth, and we shall see his face, and he will wipe away all tears from our eyes, and so on. So you're dealing with a situation where God is very focused upon this earth. And as you look out at space with the naked eye and also telescopes and so on, and you you wonder, why is the place so big? Why doesn't God live, say, 2 kilometers up in the sky,
Yeah.
and we're just down here on a flat earth and we just have a bit of communication with each other? What's the point of all this huge scale? Well, what we do know is that the planets that we can see around us do not appear to have any life on them. All right. So why? Why is this? What's the point of the scale of it all? Why doesn't God live 2 kilometers up in the sky above us and communicate and drop a few things down on us? Well, I think the scale of the whole thing is to show us the focus of his love, that we are his special interest. We who live on this obscure little planet,
Yeah.
very far away from him, that despite all this other stuff that we don't understand, and why it's there per se we don't understand, but he has put it there maybe so that we see the scale of his focus, not only upon this planet, but upon little me. Especially when you consider that the majority of people who live on this planet and life forms on this planet Earth have not come into relationship with his son. Even out of the whole cosmos, he chose this Earth. And out of this Earth, he only chose a few people. And he only chose Homo sapiens out of the whole caboose of life forms on this planet. Why? Well, you know, we don't know exactly, but I do suspect it's something to do with giving us some scale, that out of all this, he focused on me,
Yeah.
a little me, and that his son was of my nature as a human being. He did not come to save angels, or else he would have had an angel's nature. He did not come to save, let's say, lions, because then he would have been a lion. He came to be our representative, and he was born as our representative. The other thing is that the Lord Jesus did not physically pre-exist. He was there in the mind of God from the start, but not in a physical form. So when you consider that God existed from eternity, that God has no beginning, and obviously God did have previous creations, you sort of gasp a bit that we happen to live at the time when God had an only begotten son. From infinity backwards, he never had a begotten son. And, you know, the mind boggles that for all that infinity, he never had a begotten son. But now he has had one, and the Bible invites us to see his passion and his focus as upon that beloved begotten son, and upon us, his people, and upon this earth. And, you know, that's when the mind starts tripping. That's when you just cut off. The scale of that love is beyond us. Now, those thoughts certainly do lead us to understand that the purpose of Jesus and the purpose of God in Jesus was to save us on this planet. That does not preclude the possibility of life on other planets. It does not preclude it at all. And what are we going to be doing for eternity? We will not just be sitting on tropical islands sort of watching the sunset for eternity. That would be terribly boring. We presumably, well, we are told we shall be equal to the angels, and we shall presumably be involved in future creations. But of course, that is where we're at the very frontier of human ability to understand. But unfortunately, we have this curiosity and desire to be involved in that which is beyond us. And that takes us away from our focus, which is to be upon the Lord Jesus and upon God's purpose with this earth. So I'm sorry if that's not a particularly convincing answer, but I think that is as far as we can deduce from the Bible.
No, it brought to my mind so many questions and so many thoughts that I've already forgotten all of them except the latest one. So my latest thought in here was that it's interesting how people are so ready and so open for the idea of there being so-called aliens, but and they want to believe in this that they cannot prove and they cannot see, but they aren't open to God. It's just mind-boggling.
The Bible reveals that God is all powerful and that he is the total creator.
Mm.
So there is no sort of radical evil. There is no planet with an evil planet with a bunch of evil people on it who are sort of shooting torpedoes at heaven sort of thing, where God is. That is not the case. God is totally powerful. God is the total creator. So we can be assured that all life, wherever life is from God and is ultimately under his dominion. So we needn't fear, alien invasions and this sort of thing, because God is all powerful and he is the ultimate creator. And of course, we are asking questions from our paradigm, like, well, is there life on other planets? Well, what about if there's another dimension to existence apart from life? No, I mean, then drone trips and, red lights flash. But I'll just say it again. What if there is another paradigm to existence apart from through life? You say, oh, but you must have life to exist. Well, that's how we understand it. But maybe there's another paradigm out there, many others.
Yeah, we wouldn't know.